Oh, hey. I've just got back from the library. I may have gone a teensy bit overboard with the checkouts. They had so many good books for spooky season. I just couldn't decide between them. Now, I know I'm not going to read them all, but I've got plenty of options. Would you like to see? Well, the first one that I'm quite excited about, and I didn't think I would find it at the library, is House of Leaves. This is a big book. I have heard really good things about this book. I've also heard that it's kind of weird and it's kind of not what you'd expect. It's not your standard layout of a book. There seems to be a mystery surrounding a family living in a house, and there are extracts and evidence from an investigation or a reporter looking into it, and then that evidence falling into the hands of someone else and their tale of their experience of it all. It just sounds really intriguing. There are many, many pages to this, so I'm excited for this one. It's really, really intriguing to me. I will quickly read you just a bit of what it says on the inside. The story focuses on a young family that moves into a small home on Ash Tree Lane, where they discover something terribly wrong. The house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Of course, neither Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist Will Navidson nor his companion Karen Green was prepared to face the consequences of that impossibility, until the day their two little children wandered off and their voices eerily began to return another story of creature darkness, of an ever-growing abyss behind a closet door, and of that unholy growl which soon enough would tear through their walls and consume all of their dreams. Okay. And then it's just various people's account of what happened. The next one I picked up was a classic in the horror genre, which I haven't read yet, and it's Carmilla. Now, in the past I have read Dracula, but I have not read this one yet, so I was intrigued to try this one. It's very, very short, so this is definitely one I'm going to focus on to read around spooky season, so like right now. For anyone who doesn't know, I'll read you the blurb. In an isolated castle deep in the Austrian forest, Laura leads a solitary life with only her ailing father for company, until one moonlit night a horse-drawn carriage crashes into view carrying an unexpected guest, the beautiful Carmilla. So begins a feverish friendship between Laura and her mysterious, entrancing companion, but as Carmilla becomes increasingly strange and volatile, prone to eerie nocturnal wanderings, Laura finds herself tormented by nightmares and growing weaker by the day. This definitely seems to be a staple of horror, and just one of those origin stories where so many other tales stem from. This and Dracula just being the birth of vampire stories as we know them today. This which, as far as I'm aware, is a modern Carmilla retelling, and a very recent book, only came out this year, so I was very pleased to find this on the shelves in the library. Let's read the blurb again, see how it compares to the other one. It's the height of the Industrial Revolution, and 10 years into Lenore's marriage to steel magnate Henry, their relationship has soured. When Henry's ambitions take them from London to the remote British moorlands to host a hunting party, a shocking carriage accident brings the mysterious Carmilla into their lives. Carmilla, who is weak and pale during the day but vibrant at night. Carmilla, who stirs up something deep within Lenore. And before long, girls from the local villages fall sick, consumed by a terrible hunger. As the day of the hunt draws closer, Lenore begins to unravel, questioning the role she has been playing all these years, torn between regaining her husband's affection and the cravings Carmilla has awakened. Lenore will soon uncover a darkness in her household that will place her at terrible risk. So, very much still centres around a character called Carmilla. So I would really like to read this not too long after Carmilla, and so just kind of do a compare and contrast between the two stories. It sounds intriguing and spooky enough for spooky season. One that I've heard really good things about, and I believe slightly more on the cozier side, is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Another one that I would like to try and prioritise, but I know I'm not going to read them all. Let's see what it's about. All her life, Annie has played it nice and safe. After being unceremoniously dumped by her longtime boyfriend, Annie seeks a fresh start. She accepts a new teaching position and moves from Manhattan to a small village upstate. She's stunned by how perfect and picturesque the town is. The people are all friendly and warm. Her apartment is dreamy too, aside from the oddly persistent spider infestation. Oh no, spiders. Ugh. Then Annie meets Sophie, beautiful, charming, magnetic Sophie, who takes a special interest in Annie and wants to be her friend. More importantly, she wants Annie to stop apologising and start living for herself. That's how she lives. Annie can't help but gravitate towards the self-possessed Sophie and starts to spend more and more time with her, despite the fact that the rest of the townsfolk seem a little afraid of her. And okay, there are some things. Sophie's appearance is uncanny and ageless. Her mansion in the middle of the woods feels a little unearthly. And she does seem to wield a certain power. But she couldn't be. Could she? I'm going to guess that yes, she is. She's a witch. A witch, a witch, a witch. I definitely love a good witchy book this time of year. And in that spirit, I do have a few more. So let's go through my witchy books. And continuing with the cozier theme, I have got In the Company of Witches. On the front it says, An Even Fall Witches B&B Mystery. read a book like that before. It sounds like it's going to be part of a series, but I've not heard of any others beyond this. But if it's good and I like it, hopefully I'm wrong, and there'll be more in the series that I can devour. Again, I've seen some really good reviews of this one. This one caught my eye, and I do love a cosy fantasy. And a cosy witchy fantasy is perfect for right now. So, let's see what it says. For 400 years, the Warren witches have used their magic to quietly help the citizens of the sleepy New England town of Evenfall thrive. There's never been a problem they couldn't handle. Then, Constance Graves dies while staying at the witch's bed and breakfast. At first it seems like an accident, but it soon becomes clear that there's something more sinister at work, and Aunt Nora is shaping up to be the prime suspect. There's nothing Bryn Warren wants more than to prove Nora's innocence, and it hurts knowing that even 2 years ago it might have been easier. Bryn, after all, is a witch of the dead, a witch who can communicate with ghosts. But she hasn't used her powers since her husband died, and isn't even sure she still can. Bryn will just have to hope that her aunt's magic and her own investigative skills will lead her to answers, and maybe back to the gift she was ready to give up forever. Wow. That definitely sounds like it's giving practical magic vibes. A film that I definitely want to get around to watching at some point this year. Again, sounds intriguing, and a bit of a cozy witchy mystery. The next witchy book that I have, I think I've got quite a few, is The Briar Book of the Dead, A.G. Slatter. Look at that gold. That's great. Ellie Briar is the first non-witch to be born into her family for generations. When her grandmother dies suddenly, Ellie's cousin Audra rises to the position of Briar Witch, ruling over the town of Silverton and propelling Ellie into her new role as steward. As she navigates fresh challenges, an unexpected new ability to see and speak to the dead leads her to uncover sinister family secrets, stories of burnings, lost grimoires, and evil spells. She is forced to decide who to trust, as a devastating plot threatens to destroy everything the Briar Witches have sacrificed so much to build. So, more witches who can speak to the dead. I've inadvertently found a theme. Hopefully the next witch book isn't the same. Talking to the dead or necromancy or something. It's a secret history of witches. By Louisa Morgan. Now, they had several witchy books by the same author, but I believe this is the first one, or at least the first one of the ones they had at the library that was published. So I think the blurb for this one was the most intriguing to me anyway, but the fact that it is the first published before all of the others. I couldn't decide, so I thought I'd go for this one. Love it or hate it, there are deckled edges on this particular copy. I don't mind a deckled edge. I guess I'm kind of indifferent. I can take it or leave it. I know some people really don't like it, but I don't mind. But it's not exactly my favourite thing either. Doesn't actually give much of a description on the back, but enough to still be intriguing. It's described as a sweeping historical saga that traces 5 generations of fiercely powerful mothers and daughters, witches whose magical inheritance is both a dangerous threat and an extraordinary gift. Another contender, but probably not one I'm going to get round to just yet. I'm a fairly slow reader. I wish I was faster than I am. I do try sometimes, but I don't always have the time, and I do often get distracted easily. So when I can, I should probably dedicate some time. Set aside half an hour, maybe put a timer on. Keep my phone out of the way so I don't get distracted by anything. Maybe I'll try that one day. I'm not sure if this is particularly witchy, but I also found Plain Bad Heroines. Which is, there's a sorority of girls, I think, of young women, so it could be a bit witchy. But let's read the blurb and we'll find out. This is a long one. Our story begins in 1902 at the Brookhants School for Girls. Flo and Clara, 2 impressionable students, are obsessed with each other and with a daring young writer named Mary MacLane, the author of a scandalous best-selling memoir. To show their devotion to Mary, the girls establish their own private club and call it the Plain Bad Heroine Society. They meet in secret in a nearby apple orchard, the setting of their wildest happiness and, ultimately, of their macabre deaths. This is where their bodies are later discovered, with a copy of Mary's book splayed beside them, the victims of a swarm of stinging, angry yellowjackets. Less than 5 years later, the Brookhants School for Girls closes its doors forever, but not before 3 more people mysteriously die on the property, each in a most troubling way. Over a century later, the now abandoned and crumbling Brookhants is back in the news when one-of-a-kind writer Merritt Emmons publishes a breakout book celebrating the queer feminist history surrounding the haunted and cursed Gilded Age institution. Her best-selling book inspires a controversial horror film adaptation starring celebrity actor and lesbian it-girl Harper playing the ill-fated heroine Flo, opposite B-list actress and former child star Audrey Wells as Clara. But as Brookhants opens its gates once again, and our 3 modern heroines arrive on set to begin filming, past and present become grimly entangled, or perhaps just grimly exploited. And soon it's impossible to tell where the curse leaves off and Hollywood begins. Definitely more on the spooky side. A bit of a murder mystery in there as well. This is one chunky book. It's quite big. I may not get around to this quite just yet. And this is certainly not going to be a quick read. Now we are definitely heading into the more spooky area of books. Continuing with Diavola. If that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. I've heard some really good things about this one as well. Again, a spooky, scary story. It isn't easy when she's the only one in the family who doesn't quite seem to fit in. Her twin brother Benny goes with the flow so much he's practically dissolved, and her older sister Nicole is so used to everyone, including her blandly docile husband and 2 kids, falling in line that Anna often ends up in trouble for simply asking a question. Mum seizes every opportunity to question her life choices, and Dad, when not remembering everyone who paid for this vacation, just wants some peace and quiet. The gorgeous remote villa in tiny Monteperso seems like a perfect place to endure so much family togetherness, until things start going off the rails. The strange noises at night, the unsettling warnings from the local villagers, and the dark, violent past of the villa itself. Jennifer Thorne skewers all too familiar family dynamics in this sly, wickedly funny vacation gothic. Beautifully unhinged and deeply satisfying, Diavala is a sharp twist on the classic haunted house story, exploring loneliness, belonging, and the seemingly inescapable bonds of family mythology. It says, warning. May invoke feelings of irritation, dread, and despair that come with large family gatherings. Okay. It's a scary haunted house story, but she has a sense of humor about it. So going from one haunted house to another, next up I have The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I have had this book on my radar for so long now, and I haven't got around to reading it. So hopefully the fact that I have it from the library and I at least have some kind of deadline to work to, that it will give me the nudge I need to actually read it and finish it. In a boarded-up house on a dead-end street at the edge of the wild Washington woods lives a family of 3. A teenage girl who isn't allowed outside, not after last time. A man who drinks alone in front of his TV, trying to ignore the gaps in his memory. And a house cat who loves napping and reading the Bible. An unspeakable secret binds them together, but when a new neighbour moves in next door, what is buried among the birch trees may come back to haunt them all. The Last House on Needless Street is an immersive and shocking journey that will keep you guessing until the last page. Well, I hope so. That's quite a claim. It's harder and harder to keep things interesting these days because so many stories have been told. It makes you think all of the twists and turns that could possibly happen in a story have already been told before. But maybe she has stumbled across something new and fresh. And the one I think I'm going to pick up next is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I've read a couple of T. Kingfisher before, but not her more horror-based stuff. Actually, that's not true. I have read The House with Good Bones, and it was a little bit creepy. But it was very contemporary. It had quite a light-hearted voice to it. The characters were quirky and funny, which kind of broke up the sinister goings-on. So, as much as it was a bit creepy and spooky, it wasn't like full-on horror, which I think is good because I'm very much dipping my toes into the horror genre. I probably don't want to dive straight in and be completely scared and be having nightmares and not be able to sleep. I've actually started this one, and it seems to have a similar kind of voice and writing style to The House with Good Bones. Being a very contemporary, modern set story that just injects a bit of creepiness into our real world. T. Kingfisher is such a beloved author. I am really hoping to enjoy this. So that is actually everything that I have picked up from the library recently. All of my spooky season books, a whole range of horror to cozy witchy books and classic horror vampire stories. How many do we actually have? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and finally 11. Yeah, I've definitely overdone it. I've been far too ambitious. I am not going to read all of these before they're due back, but I can at least try and do my best. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad to have spent some time with you and showing you my books. I hope you enjoyed seeing my little, big library haul. I have definitely got some reading to do, so I'm going to get started with that, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you're seeing this.